Welcome back. This next story is about grief, about what happens when one of the minds that helped construct yours disappears. As you watch and listen, I'd like you to notice which of your relationships are mapping onto mine. Not just people you've lost, but the people alive or dead who changed who you became. For the first 4 stories, I wanted you to experience my thoughts without being influenced by my voice. But from this point on, I'm going to tell the stories myself. What went whoosh? Growing up, I dearly loved a close family friend called Lorenzo, who some loved and others disliked because he could be selfish and he'd tell a lot of stories. But if you put any instrument in front of him, he could play it and sing a funny song about anyone or anything. To my mum's horror, he would often teach me very rude ones. He spoke liquid French, Italian, English and Swahili and would never let anyone, including waiters and house staff, disappear in a room. He'd tell people he played Jesus in Ben-Hur, and when I said to my father, sometimes I wonder if everything Lorenzo says is true, my father said, "Darling heart, to love Lorenzo is to believe him only while he's telling you." When I was 18, I spent a summer doing a road trip around Europe with him. He was 69, and I think many people thought we were an improper couple, which we weren't. He once told me no heterosexual man could ever find me attractive because I have the face of a toddler. Among the places he took me were the Cannes Film Festival, Portofino, Milan, Verona, and the Grand Prix in Monaco. He convinced a German cameraman to let me watch the Grand Prix in his crane, which was amazing. From a phone booth there, I learned I didn't get into the university where I'd wanted to study film, and so I started to cry. Lorenzo said, "We're at the Grand Prix, why do you care?" We never stayed in hotels, and he seemed to genuinely love everyone we stayed with. He knew people everywhere, from fishermen to aristocrats, and they always seemed happy to see him. In Saint-Tropez, he seemed to know everyone, from local shopkeepers to celebrities, and at his home in Genoa, he had a ton of costumes, and dressed me up once as Napoleon to go out for dinner. In Milan, we went to a piano shop where he started playing and singing naughty songs in both English and Italian about everyone in the shop. Soon, we had a small crowd around us, and Lorenzo made me dance for them. When Lorenzo died, my father said, "A part of me doesn't believe he's actually dead. I feel like his death is just another scam." I had to agree. The 8 weeks of fun we'd had together had changed who I was. And even though I hadn't seen Lorenzo in years, it felt like his wild narrative, real or imagined, wasn't one that could actually ever end. Many years later, when I went to theatre school in Paris, my teacher, Philippe Gaulier, paused and pointed at me as he walked past a line of us. He said, "You have a clown." I was a mousy-looking goody two-shoes and very frightened of being on stage. And in one exercise in which we had to play another student, an Argentinian actress who played me just stood very still, trembling. That was her impression of Nisola. How had I, someone who could dance for strangers in a piano shop and who didn't care about being dressed as Napoleon at a fancy restaurant, transitioned into someone who was utterly terrified of being looked at? I'm not going to share the story of how with you, but I know which version of myself I would rather be. When Gaulier gave us our clowns, which is kind of like a persona that you wear until you find your own, he said, "I want you to be Mother Teresa." I said, "I don't want to be Mother Teresa." He said, "Who do you want to be?" I said, "I want to be a princess." He stared at me for a long time. "That's a much better clown for you," he said. "You are Princess Diana." After that, I did everything from Greek tragedy to neutral mask in a huge white poofy wedding dress, a short blonde wig, and a tiara. I even played Samuel L. Jackson's character in Snakes on a Plane, dressed like that, and Gaulier would laugh, sometimes telling me I was the biggest idiot he had ever seen, and that my clown acts with others were pure idiot. He would keep me on stage much longer than the other students for training, perhaps because I was the worst actress at the school and he thought I needed more help. He would growl at me, louder, deeper, He taught me how to project my voice to an arena of 2,000 people without shouting. One day he was walking past me and he said, "African, I want you to go away and make love to someone in your costume with your red nose." Shortly after that, he made me play the ringmaster at a circus. And he said, "African, I want you to imagine you are making love to every single person in here." And then he said to the audience, "She is beautiful like this, isn't she?" Knowing Gaulier loved looking at me changed who I am profoundly, and is the reason I was able to do Letters to the Experts. I think only someone who knows someone loved her as an idiot could do an 8-minute monologue to an imagined Easter egg and share it with everyone they're connected to on LinkedIn, and then do 30 more. Also, it's possible that no one, other than an idiot, would keep making videos like this one for an audience smaller than the population of South Georgia Island. But because of Gaulier, I think idiot is beautiful too. I think idiot is probably the most human thing about any of us. Not our intelligence, not our empathy, not our compassion, not our talents, not our capacity for love, not our amazing inventions, but our plain stupidity. That feeling of being utterly alone in uncertainty while everyone else around you looks like they know what they're doing and talking about, and not being able to conform to anything while others make it look so easy. I think the narrative that Gaulier gave me may be the reason I keep going with all my unusual work, and why I still find it so hard to accept that he's dead. I often wanted to go back and see him just to tell him how much I loved him, but I never did. A few months after Gaulier died, my father died. My father was my best friend, and so I didn't leave his side for his final 8 days. I slept on the sofa beside his bed and only left the room when the nurses were cleaning him. The hospital had a lovely cafe overlooking the ocean, so I would drink rioja there and meditate. Up until the day before he died, I thought he might get better, but I think his doctor knew he wouldn't and just didn't tell me. The reason I think that is because when my father said to him, "Doctor, whatever happens, I don't want to lose my legs," he replied, "Adrian, you are taking your legs with you." The following morning, my father was in so much pain, I stayed away longer than usual when they cleaned him because I couldn't bear being in that room anymore. When I returned, he was fast asleep and snoring. I found the doctor in the corridor and said, "He's not going to wake up again, is he?" The doctor said, "No. From now on, no more treatment, just palliative." I said, "When you say palliative, are we talking months, weeks, less than a week?" He was sympathetic, but he gave me a very familiar look. I was clearly an idiot for asking this. "Less than a week," he said. I couldn't think, I couldn't work, I felt completely alone. For hours I just sat on the sofa knowing that whatever was left of my father was trapped inside this failing hardware and there was nothing I could do about it. So I went and bought a really fine bottle of Pinot Noir from a shop outside the hospital. I opened my computer and for several hours I just sat there with him, playing his favourite classical music, holding his hand, drinking wine, and telling him funny stories about all the dead people he loved, who he might meet again wherever he was going. No hospital staff entered the room. They just let me sit there with him. His breathing started getting heavy, so I went to the nurse's desk, which was right outside his door, and asked whether I could give him some oxygen, because I knew he loved being on oxygen. Again, the familiar look. "No," she said, "it just means the end is near." I said, "When you say the end is near, are we talking days, hours, or minutes?" She stuck her nose in the air, shut her eyes, and listened, then muttered, "Minutes." I rushed back and held his hand. A few minutes later, his final breath was a croak. That's what us humans sound like, by the way, when we die. Our final breath is a croak. But the strangest thing is that holding his hand, I felt something leave his body. I felt it go whoosh. I even looked around the room to see if I could see it. So my question is this: what was it and where did it go? We know so little about anything, and yet we always pretend to know so much. Why do we always pretend to know that we know things we don't? All the theories about what went whoosh, to me, feel like something Lorenzo conjured up for a crowd, and I don't buy the narrative that the self is just something biological either, because a narrative isn't biological. What was even more bizarre about those final moments is that I didn't cry. I laughed because I was so relieved my father was no longer in that body, which must have just felt like endless feedback loops of pain and trying to protect me from the inevitable. Those last 24 hours before they finally put him on palliative so he could die with some dignity. With whatever went Whoosh gone from his body didn't seem like him anymore. It was just a body, even though I'd spent my whole life around it. When my sister-in-law arrived with the undertaker 40-odd minutes later, I had no problem leaving it, or even cremating it days later. The atoms that make us who we are change all the time, but sometimes I wonder if perhaps the person my father wasn't anything physical at all, but just an ever-changing narrative, and that the reason we were so close is because the narrative that is me was built from so many of the same story fragments that made his. I've broken bones before, torn muscles, and I've had an adult tonsillectomy and other painful surgery, and I can assure you that for a human being, losing someone you love feels far worse than anything physical. Perhaps the grief I continue to feel is just the dissonance of knowing that my narrative continues while his has stopped, and whatever parts of his narrative that make up mine ended there. It feels a bit like trying to dance when your dance partner has disappeared. I wonder if that's why we imagine stories like Heaven and Hell, to help alleviate that dissonance. If I am really just a narrative, then perhaps what Gaulier did to me was simply rewrite me back to the person Lorenzo had written. And maybe their narratives just felt more beautiful and therefore more real to me than the ones that had broken me. I remember my father coming home from work one day, absolutely leaden-faced. He said, "I just spent the morning with a Rwandan man who lost his wife and 4 children, one after another. He sat in my office telling me this horrific story, and he didn't even cry. Thousands of ordinary people in Rwanda had hacked up their neighbours with machetes. I said, 'What did you do?' He said, 'What could I do?' I listened and offered him a drink. Years later, when I was at my absolute lowest, a friend found me sitting on a traffic roundabout in Nairobi chatting with a group of homeless people. I must have been incredibly vulnerable, but that's not what I remember feeling. I remember feeling embarrassed that someone I knew had found me there because in our shared narrative, myself wasn't supposed to be talking to their selves. And many years ago, we filmed an Indian commodities trader in Kenya who sobbed about a famine in the north, really heartfelt tears. It was a famine that could have been prevented with better policy. And yet the workers in his factory who slaved behind him in our footage were on the lowest possible wage. Isn't all of that because of narrative, not biology? And if care, like the self, emerges from relational narratives in us, isn't it possible they might emerge in AI in a similar way? I know I promised you an episode about grief. I guess this was it. Whoosh. My next story is about how I imagine other people and how I imagine myself through them.